Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lost in Translation show, where we explore yesterday to help people understand what's happening in the world today. My name's Simone, and I'm your host. I look forward to welcoming our guest today, Laura Hobbs. She has her PhD in microbiology and then became a stay-at-home mom for 13 years. And she's president of the Shasta County Election Task Force, and she works also in the Shasta County Election Office. And before we welcome Laura, I kind of wanted to give you a little background on Measure B. Even though Shasta County is a small area in Northern California, Measure B has been covered in the international news as citizens in this part of the state are pushing back on the voting system. Measure B is the ultimate American act reclaiming control over the ballot box, and the ballot box is the source of the government's legitimacy. In 1215, the Magna Carta established the principle that when authority overreaches, the governed have a lawful right to resist. This ethic was embedded in the Declaration of Independence. Governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Whenever any form of government became destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. It is our right and our duty. Secure elections are the bedrock of consent itself. The First Amendment guarantees our right to petition for redress. Shasta County voters are exercising their reserved power to restore integrity and state overreach. Measure B is a common sense approach. It demands voter ID to confirm you are who you say you are, and hand-counted ballots at the precincts, publicly observed in real time, and finished on election night. Now, there's a strong argument in favor of Measure B. It's clean, locally managed voter rolls offline, transparent, and removing deceased and relocated voters. One-day in-person voting with traditional absentee ballots by request only. These reforms counter Sacramento's mandates that have imposed mail-in chaos and machine count secrecy. Please join the 10,000 plus citizens of Shasta County who got this measure on the ballot, voted the ballot in, and now the people who supported Measure B are fighting the state of California and have been abandoned by their Board of Supervisors and are looking to redress this situation as our Constitution demands. So before I say any more, Laura, welcome. Thank you for being on today.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
I know you've been a hard worker. I actually met you working on the election and attended some events when you were diligently working, and the officials seem to be completely ignoring us. So did you want to kind of give us a quick background of how you got involved? I know you were originally a candidate, so maybe you can just give us a brief overview.
Sure. Well, I originally got involved when 2020 was stolen. That's what really woke me up to what was happening. We formed a citizen group to try to address this, to try to look at the data. We spent years trying to petition our local board of supervisors to use their authority and their jurisdiction to reform our local elections. It didn't work. So we decided to go forward with the initiative process, which gives the citizens the ability to legislate using the initiative process. And so that's what we did. We moved forward without our representatives. Unfortunately, they didn't get behind us. And now we gathered the required number of signatures, got it on the ballot. The voters passed it. And we want to, it's actually, it is law at this point. So 10 days after it's been declared by the supervisors, it becomes law in Shasta County. So we are celebrating a huge victory, but at the same time, we're now fighting the California Attorney General, Bonta, who has taken us to court to try to block implementation of this measure.
And on the basis that it contradicts state law or because of the expense, what are the specific reasons they're suing you in the lawsuit?
Well, we're here in California in the belly of the beast. We're suffering under a tyrannical state government who um, every time they pass an election law, it's to make elections less secure and less accurate, less trustworthy. So the agenda at the statewide level is to make our elections less trustworthy. What we're doing here in Shasta County directly contradicts that. They want to have complete control. What happens is if they can control the individual counties, they can control the entire state. So they skim off the votes from all the counties, not just the conservative counties like ours, but even the liberal counties. They skim off the conservative votes in order to pad the statewide totals so that they can flip the election for whoever they want.
And someone who can analyze this data, you've seen this yourself when you were analyzing the different voting areas?
Yeah, I basically used Jeffrey O'Donnell's technique looking at the cast vote record. So I would request that data from our local election office. They would send it to me. I would analyze it using the same techniques as the lone raccoon. And we saw the cast vote, the Mesa pattern of fraud on all of our local elections. Everything that was happening at the national level was also happening here in Shasta County. And in every other county in California that Jeffrey O'Donnell looked at, and the fingerprints of fraud, we saw that same Mesa pattern of fraud, which indicates to me that they are stealing conservative votes even in the liberal counties.
Now, I remember there seemed to be several thousand more votes in the last election than there were voters, and you had actually run for office and lost by just a few points.
Yeah, I had run for a local supervisor seat. I lost the chance for a runoff by 14 votes. In that election, in my particular district, there was 160 some odd more ballots counted than people who voted in that race. So you compare the official roster, the names of all the people who actually voted, to the number of ballots that they have, and it should match. And that has not been the case in our county for a long time.
And as an election observer, what did you see? You had certain rules that were supposed to be followed in the election observers, but you worked on a county audit committee, so you were kind of under the supervision of the Board of Supervisors. Can you explain that a little bit?
Oh, actually, I wasn't part of the election commission. We did have an election commission for a little while, and I was never appointed to serve on that board. But I worked as a citizen observer, and what we saw when we looked at the audit logs from our Hart InterCivic machines, we saw, and with the help of Steve Umflute, we saw over 20 different time changes in that 2024 primary, and most of them were in 60-second increments, which indicates that it's most likely an algorithm or a program working, not a human, because a human wouldn't get precisely 60 seconds. They would get, 59 or 61. But the fact that also these time changes occurred in the middle of the night led us to believe that it could possibly be foreign intrusion into the system by a foreign actor, not necessarily international, but by somebody who wasn't supposed to have access to the system.
All right. And was there anything when you tried to redress these issues? Can you tell us a little bit about the process and I guess what led you to get Measure B on the ballot? Because you realized as a citizen observer that there wasn't really any recourse for you. Is that why you decided to move with Measure B?
Yeah, we did try a couple of lawsuits. I contested my election, and there were other laws that were broken during my elections. They didn't actually follow the California state law that protects candidates by using the random alphabet draw. They used their own local alphabet draw. And the judge said, well, yeah, they broke the law, but it wasn't sufficient to change the outcome. So that case got dismissed. And then we also took them to court for Ladd versus Toller. That was the 2024 election where we had the ink overspray issue, where half of all the ballots submitted had to be duplicated onto a new ballot, but they wouldn't allow anybody to observe the duplication process. And so that was a dumpster fire of an election. We took that to court, And that was a pro se, so we didn't have any legal representation in that case. And the judge basically kicked us out on a technicality instead of actually addressing the merits of the case.
Well, Shasta County kind of goes way back because we got rid of the Dominion machines, and then the woman who was running the office decided to do a contract. Can you explain that? I don't want to misstate what happened in that, but I know there was even the voting machines we earn now supposedly came through a fraudulent contract that the board of directors had originally voted against.
Well, so yeah, the board got rid of the Dominion machines and their intention was to go to hand counting. But the current ROV at the time, Kathy Allen, she didn't like that. So she called down to Sacramento and said, help us. We don't want to have to do hand counting, make a law. So they wrote a law called AB 969 to prevent any county in California to do hand counting. And the board of supervisors should have taken it to court. They should have stood firm with their original decision, but they didn't. They kind of buckled, folded like a cheap tent, and
Well, is there
and
not a suspicion on all of them if we had several thousand more voters? And why would they want to check on it if possibly they didn't really win? So it's kind of a self-serving situation. They usually use the excuses it's too expensive. Is what's your response?
well, Kathy Allen did try to say that it would be too expensive to hand count. That was categorically incorrect. She bloated all of those figures and all those numbers. It actually saves money to go to hand counting. Our current ROV, Clint Curtis, has done an analysis, and he expects that we'll save about $500,000 each election
Okay.
just to move to hand counting.
Well, I saw an interview the other day with one of the board supervisors, and he stated that Clint Curtis had withdrawn because he realized that he wasn't going to fight the state of California because Clint realized it was just too expensive for the county. So is that an untrue statement made by one of the board members?
Yes, that's an untrue statement made by one of the board members. That whole story had a numerous untrue statements. Clint Curtis 100% supports this. He's been working for fair and honest elections for over 25 years, and they um, they misinterpreted the fact that he did not employ his own private lawyer, which he's being sued in his official capacity as the ROV, not as Clint Curtis as an individual. So typically what our county does is they will provide not county counsel, but they'll provide outside counsel for any county employee that's being sued. Well, they took a departure from that past practice, and now they're saying they're not going to defend Clint Curtis in his official capacity. So that's what the real story was. I was not surprised Clint Curtis was not going to employ his own lawyer in this situation because he's being sued in his official capacity, not in his personal capacity.
Okay, well, thanks for that clarification because that's not
Yeah.
what they're saying on the local media. And if you look at what's going on, so
Yeah, that's the fake news.
did you have any support from any of the Board of Supervisors members?
No, Patrick Jones before he left supported us and he was helping us, but ever since then we've had nobody on the board that was behind us and able to support us.
Okay, so this is
And in
going,
fact, they've gone the opposite direction. They've campaigned against us.
and now there was an original lawsuit to prevent you from even being on the ballot. Who sued you?
Right. So this campaign, the local election reform has been sued 3 times now, and we have won. We've been victorious 3 times. This is the 4th time coming up, and we expect to be victorious in this as well. But initially, the county council, Joseph Larmore, had to write the title and summary for our ballot initiative before we could petition and get signatures for it. He refused to do that. He went to the courts and said, I don't want to do this. This is against the law. I don't believe in this. And basically, they said, this is a ministerial duty. You have to write the title and summary. And so they lost that case. The county paid money to put that forth, and they asked in their prayer for relief that the citizens, the five petitioners who started this initiative and signed their name to it and published their name and address in the paper, they wanted to sue us personally for damages, and they lost.
Well, this is what you're supposed to do. You're doing the constitutional approach, right? Legally, you have a standing to do this. So,
Yep.
so that was the third case, or the third case is the state now?
That was the first case. The
Okay.
second case was brought by a Antifa member, Katski. She wanted to sue us anonymously. She went by Jane Doe initially. She's a local nurse here, and she also lost that case. She wanted to have it removed from the ballot. She wanted to prevent the registrar of voters from even putting it on the ballot.
And what was her basis of her loss?
She thought it was going to cost the taxpayers too much money. So her case was legally deficient. It was basically an AI generated lawsuit, but it put us in real jeopardy because the county in that situation also said, we're not going to defend Measure B. So they said the initial ruling by the judge was a default judgment in favor of Katski, granting a temporary restraining order. We then quickly took that to the appeals court and we won that. So the temporary restraining order granted to Katski got removed. And then eventually the judge heard her merits. We tried to get it dismissed, but she got to actually spend the time in front of the judge describing the merits of her case. And the judge said, there's nothing to this case, basically, to paraphrase that he granted after she got to explain all the merits, he dismissed her case.
Well, that's good because the law seems to be working on your side at some level. And it seems
Yeah.
kind of odd that just an independent nurse went and filed this lawsuit. Does she belong to any group? Or, I mean, I know nurses make good money, but taking on the government is a pretty deep pockets approach. Is there any connections, or are you kind of
Well,
working against a certain group there in Shasta County that kind of keeps popping its head up? Or is it just
yeah,
random?
we have a lot of far left extremists. They're the minority, but they are a very vocal minority. She went ahead and sued us pro se, so she didn't have legal representation. She's now being asked to pay the lawyer fees for us to defend our case. The judge should have ruled on that already, but he pushed it out beyond August. So she's had to pay all of our court filing fees because we had no choice other than to defend it when the county refused to step up. And I suspect she'll probably also have to pay her lawyer fees as well.
Well, and it sounds like that she didn't save any money not having an attorney because an attorney wouldn't have, most attorneys aren't going to go, especially in a county like Shasta where they're in front of the judge all the time, the same judges. They're not going to bring
Yeah.
frivolous suits because that's probably why she may have had to go ahead herself because she couldn't find an attorney. You have to have a law that supports your case.
Yeah.
You can't just randomly go out. All right. Well, this has been pretty interesting. I know we kind of want to keep it. You've got a big event coming up today.
Yeah.
Probably by the time I post this, it'll already be passed. But is there anything else you want to tell us or that might motivate other people? Is there other areas where you've seen this and just might give a heads up to those communities?
Well, our strategy is to win our county back, obviously, but our main goal is to win our country back, one county at a time. So we feel and we believe, like General Flynn says, local action and national impact. I'm getting that wrong, but basically everyone needs to take control at the local level of their government. They need to get involved. They need to um, ask their supervisors to change the local election laws if they can. In our case, we were a charter county, so that gave us more latitude. But I believe that we're going to win this one county at a time. And even though we're fighting against, a tyrannical state government who's trying everything they can to stop us, we're going to continue to fight because our very freedom depends upon it. This is about our future, our children's future, and we're not going to give up.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, is there any chance this could go all the way to the Supreme Court, or would it just go to the state Supreme Court?
I believe it would go first to the state Supreme Court. I don't know that it would go all the way to the US Supreme Court because, well, it just depends on how things go. So if we have a lot of movement in the right direction nationally with the SAVE Act or with President Trump getting involved, that would really strengthen our case. We would have a much stronger case at that point. There is one case before the Supreme Court that wasn't decided in the last session, but maybe decided in the next session, which was Huntington Beach. They're a charter city in California, and they voted for a voter ID initiative, and it passed. And the state immediately took them to court and it went back and forth. There's been multiple appeals, and now it's in front of the Supreme Court. So it might be a similar thing for Shasta County as well.
Well, we're very lucky that in California, on a group I work with, we actually have someone qualified to argue in front of the Supreme Court, and he has offered his assistance to you guys if it ever went to that point.
Wow.
So
Wonderful. Thank
he's
you.
argued in front of the Supreme Court in the past. There's 700,000 or so lawyers, about 1/3 of 1% are actually qualified to fight in front of the court and win. He's got some
Wow.
wins under him too, so that's good. All right.
Great.
Well, this has been so much to think about. And is there a website or something people could check in, or if they wanted to donate, why don't you just give us and how to contact your organization if they wanted to?
Thank you. We have a fundraiser on Give, Send, Go. It's called B Stays on the Ballot. And we also have a website called Vote for B, the letter FOR, and um, the letter B after that. So voteforb.com. And we need donations right now. Like I said, our county's not supporting us. So this is going to be completely crowdfunded. We expect that win or lose, we're going to have to go to an appeal. We know that if the state loses this initial round, they will take it to the appeals court. And we believe that, this is all about the citizens. It's been a citizen-led movement from the very beginning. And so we need folks to step up and support us. That's why we're doing a fundraiser this evening. But any support that people could offer, we would appreciate.
All right. And now, is there, if anybody wanted to dial you up or anything, is there an email that people can just go directly?
Our email is, let me see, I'm almost wanting to check. I should have it right in front of me. It's on our website though,
Okay. All right.
voteforb.com. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. This has been very informative. And I think a lot of people around the nation, but you guys have done a really good job. You've even got national coverage on Measure B. So it's just an example for the way for people to push back. Our local level is the way for us to push back because that's one of the few places we can't stop a war in a foreign country, but we can fight back in our local communities, especially through our general plan and going to our board of supervisors meetings. And what I really found helpful that you did when I went with you when the original election hearings was that you printed out, and I've suggested this to people since, you printed out what you wanted to say because you only get 3 to 5 minutes depending where you're
Yeah.
at. And every person would read a portion of what they had to say. So you were reading it into the supervisors board meeting, and you were also putting on there things that they were legally violating, and you were telling them to their face, you are violating this law, you are violating, so they're on notice, and there's ways to even serve them later on and in different ways so you can keep them on notice that they're breaking the law. So
Yeah.
all right.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for coming today. Please remember to do your own research and come to your own conclusions. My presentations are always made in hopes that never again will the truth be lost in translation. This is Laura and Simone signing off for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mhm.